Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I join all the members of our subcommittee in thanking our witnesses. Uh, we thank not just our witnesses that are here today with us, but all of those frontline heroes, our nurses, our doctors, EMTs, the grocery store workers, truck drivers, janitors, factory workers in those essential industries. Mr. Chairman, there are millions of Americans all across this country who have responded to this call. We mourn everyone who has died from this evil virus, and I share with you in welcoming those members that have loved ones and friends that have been some of the tragic victims of this virus. Too many families have been unable to say goodbye. Too many Americans have lost their jobs or their businesses. Too many Americans and students had their education interrupted. But because of people all across the country, like the witnesses that we have today, the virus has met its match. It will be defeated. Americans do not hide from a fight, Mr. Chairman. We don't back down. We will confront this challenge like we've confronted so many others in our nation's history. The Select Subcommittee must honor those heroes by focusing on helping families get back on their feet, by helping businesses safely reopen, and by holding China and the World Health Organization accountable. China moved in January to contain the outbreak domestically, yet they allowed the virus to spread to America and other nations all around the globe. Mr. Chairman, yesterday the Republicans on the subcommittee sent a letter urging you to immediately call on World Health Organization Director General Tedros and Chinese ambassador to the United States, Sui Tiankai, to testify. We requested to hold the hearing in person, of course, at the Capitol, but we're doing this by WebEx. We do know this, Mr. Chairman. China lied to the world about this disease. During critical periods in December and in January, China withheld evidence of the virus, evidence that confirmed that there was human-to-human transmission of this virus, evidence of the extent of the spread. China refused entry of American and other medical experts from around the world for weeks. Our medical experts wanted to go in. Their medical experts wanted us to go in, but it was the Chinese Communist Party who said no because they wanted to hide what was happening from the world. And during this time, Mr. Chairman, China hoarded key medical supplies, those very PPE that we've been so fervently trying to get manufactured in America, because China manufactured most of that, and they hoarded those supplies, the masks, the gowns, the other life-saving PPE. They hoarded it for themselves, and they imported it from other countries while they were hiding from the world what was really going on. This is something that the Chinese Communist Party directed. We need to look into this, Mr. Chairman. China knew the danger posed by the virus, and while they hid the truth, they used that time to stock up on not just PPE, but other vital medical supplies that they still hoard to this day. While Chinese authorities limited domestic flights from Wuhan to other Chinese cities like Beijing and Shanghai, the China government urged international carriers to maintain their flight schedules, seeding the virus throughout the rest of the world while they knew what was going on in their country. The WHO received warnings of human-to-human transmission of COVID-19 from the Taiwanese government in late December of 2019, but they failed to act on that information. For more than 2 weeks in January, the WHO made a series of public proclamations that human-to-human transmission was not occurring, despite mounting evidence all across the world to the contrary. In late January, the head of the WHO praised Chinese President Xi Jinping for, quote, the seriousness with which China is taking this outbreak, especially the commitment from top leadership and the transparency they have demonstrated. Of course, Mr. Chairman, we know this all turned out not to be true. At the time of that announcement, the WHO's international experts had not even been granted access to China. Mr. Chairman, America has embarked upon an unprecedented response to this challenge for the past few months. We're testing over 300,000 people a day, and that number keeps growing. The Trump administration has procured hundreds of millions of PPE supplies from all across the globe to provide for our healthcare workers on the front lines combating this crisis. We all work to continue to increase that number, and especially to bring that manufacturing back to the United States so we don't rely on countries like China who are hoarding this. There are all kind of numbers on the increases in numbers of things like respirators, masks, face shields, gowns, and gloves, and we provided that to committee. America's paid too high a price for China's lies. This subcommittee owes it to all of our frontline heroes to expose the truth and to hold China accountable. I urge the chairman to schedule a hearing on this scandal as soon as possible. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I will yield back.